meeting, calling the June 20th, 2023 meeting of the Public Works Committee to order. Welcome all. You're gonna have to bear with me for the next 10 minutes because one of my computers is down, but here we go. Sorry, not cursing. Okay, the first thing on the agenda, I'm vamping a little here, is the local dealership electric vehicle purchase, the city purchasing opportunity. This is information only, presented by Mr. Chris Mottner. Please take it away, Mr. Mottner.
Okay, good afternoon. I'm here to provide information on the local dealership electric vehicle purchase, which is a unique opportunity that we have to promote city business with auto dealerships within the city of Bremerton city limits. This began back on January 17th, 2023 with an informational discussion with the Public Works Committee of difficulties and limited vehicle stock that hindered budget approved vehicle replacements and additions to the city's fleet. And then in early February 2023, we worked with the city's contracts administrator and the city legal department to develop bid processes and procedures specifically for City of Bremerton auto dealership businesses. And then on March 14th, we advertised for 4 Ford brand vehicles using this approved process. We were surprised that we did not receive any bids for these vehicle purchases. We were disappointed, but still determined to use this process as an option for vehicle procurements. In May 2023, we advertised again for bids for a local dealership purchase, this time for one 2023 compact sedan full electric vehicle. We received 2 inquiries from this posting. On Tuesday, June 6th, 2023, we received, opened, read aloud, and recorded the received bids for this vehicle purchase. We received only 1 bid, and that was from the local auto dealership, Advantage Nissan of Bremerton. The bid proposal and the vehicle specifications were reviewed and approved by the ESD Automotive Equipment Technician Supervisor, and the proposed purchase was reviewed and authorized by City Finance, and we plan to move forward with this vehicle purchase soon. I want to thank the City Contracts Administrator and the City Legal Department for their development of these local purchase procedures that are approved and are aligned with the state and local purchase codes, and offer us this procurement opportunity for vehicles as approved by City Council and within our budget. We look forward to other vehicle purchases in the same manner from local in Bremerton auto dealerships as possible. That's all I have for the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mottner. Vice President Younger, Councillor Goodnow, any comments? What was the vehicle?
This particular one was a new addition to the fleet that was approved by council in the 2024 replacement and new addition budget, but approved in 2023, and it was for a vehicle addition to the fleet, the replacement of the retained surplus vehicle 81900, which was a 2009 Toyota Yaris parking enforcement vehicle, and it falls within the council's goal of electric hybrid vehicle purchases as possible and available for department use.
Is the new vehicle, isn't it the new vehicle a Leaf that replaced the Yaris?
Right, it's going to replace this Toyota Yaris, and the new vehicle is a Nissan Leaf S model, which actually the cost is less than the city's purchase cost in 2022 of 2 Nissan Leaf S models, full electric vehicles from the Washington State DES contract. So we're happy to get that good pricing locally.
So part of the new contract for InPark is we give them a car, and I believe, is there any
That is correct. You're right. I
Yeah.
believe that is correct.
I'm not quarreling with it. I'm just wrapping it up. And so we are replacing the existing 2009 Toyota Yaris with a 2023
Yes,
Nissan Leaf. And at a lower price than in 2022. Well done to all of you.
right.
Okay.
Worked out well.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, moving on to item 2 on the agenda, the Pine Road Basin Stormwater Improvements, potential change order number 1. Gunnar Frederickson presenting. Please take it away, Mr. Frederickson.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. What we have coming up on Pine Road Basin, we were requested, this is actually it's going to wind up being 2 change orders. We have the first change order. We're getting ready to pave probably around second, third week in July. We've got some tentative dates from the pavers, and we want to pave the west side of Robin Avenue. The change order that we've got, actually, the cost of the paving is underneath the mayor's authority, but we need to do a budget adjustment to be able to move the money. We're thinking it's going to come Transcap, but we're not completely sure yet. We're still working on the details of that. So you'll see change order number 1 coming up here fairly quickly for that work. And then the second change order is actually a little bit more exciting. We just got an email today from the Army Corps of Engineers that basically has said that if U.S. Fish and Wildlife does not respond by July 1st, they will be issuing us a permit for doing the marine outfall work down at Lebo Boulevard. The only issue that we've got is we have a new cost estimate from the contractor, or proposal from the contractor, that is just north of $1 million to do that work. We're going to work with them and try and negotiate and see if we can't get the cost down. And we are going to go to Finance Committee next week. We've had some conversations with Public Works Trust Fund Board, and they are supportive of us requesting some additional money with our engineer's estimate, and then showing this cost above our estimate. So we're going to be working on both of those. Real last minute, kind of a rush deal. We were not expecting to get the permits, but we're trying to get this done because we do have a deadline on the Public Works Trust Fund loan. We've gotten 1 extension already, but we're supposed to be completed here by end of this year. So if we can't get the permits, or we have to go out to add, we may have to ask the board to extend our contract a little bit longer, but we'll see how that goes. And that's the 2 issues we've got coming up, the 2 change orders.
Ned, you have more to contribute to that?
Yeah, I just want to make it clear that there are 2 issues. We're treating them separately. The paving is critical path and is timely. And so we'll bring the change order with a budget adjustment request with an agenda bill for the 28th and the 5th. Yep. And the other issue, if Gunnar can work his magic, hopefully we can get the prices down, find some more money from the Public Works Board, and get the outfall work done. So that'll be a second change order. But the real critical path one is the paving. And I think, Gunnar, we talked to Mike Riley about using residential street fund balance is what we talked about. And it's about a $210,000, budget adjustment to get all the paving done. And what that does, instead of paving half a street with a utility, we're going to construct a whole new street. So they'll have a whole street paved width when we're done.
Yep. Robin Avenue will be basically a brand new street when we're done.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's it. Any questions?
Eric, Michael? So Robin needed paving. I'm going to go to the timely critical path thing first. Robin needed paving, question mark?
Yes. Yeah. And part of it is that we had enough crossings in the street. When we built the storm system entirely on the east side, but we did add some extra catch basins on the west side. And then with this, because we were doing half the street, we of course had to replace ADA ramps and build. There were a number of these, none of the intersections had ADA ramps. So between the patching that we've done for the ADA ramps and the crossings, it really would have looked like a quilt work out there, and it wasn't in that great a shape to start with. So we're just going to go ahead and take care of it and get it all fixed up. And
Okay.
hopefully it'll be another 50 years before we do anything.
From your lips to the fate's ears, yes. So that's it for this first of these two issues, the change order number one.
Correct.
Okay, so anybody, no one has anything more to say on change order one? Okay, so change order two is mildly miraculous. The Corps is going to approve, if Fish and Wildlife doesn't chime in by 1st July, the Corps is going to give you the permit
Correct.
for that Francis Road outfall, is that right?
No, this is for the Pine Road Basin, the outfall that's right there at Lebo
Okay. Okay.
and Sheridan Road that's collapsing.
Okay. Okay, and that is the one where the contractor is suddenly asking for $1 million.
Correct. Our estimate was a little shy of 750. They came in just over $1 million. But in talking to them, they said there's a couple of things that they factored in. One of the thing is they think they've got a pretty short work window, and they're going to actually have more working days than what we were thinking it was going to be, just because of the tides. They're going to be more tidally influenced. And then they're also having to work around. We've got a telecommunications line that's there that's going to delay them a little bit to be able to get that in. So they're not completely unreasonable, but we're going to try and see if there's some things that we can do in the design to be able to get our costs down a couple $100,000 and make it a little bit more palatable.
Okay, and this is the only contractor who responded to the bid? To the
We're not
request?
bidding it. We're trying to do it as a change order in the existing contract.
Got
So
it.
if we have to go out to add right now, we're not building it until next year.
Got it,
So,
okay,
yeah, it's there's a little cost too as well for convenience and being able to get it to these guys and have them do it. They would be out there in the field. If we follow schedule, right now we're hoping to be able to get the HPA revised and be able to go July 17th would be the first in-water work window. July 19th would be our meeting, our city council meeting where we'd get that approval. So I would be able to give them notice to proceed on that, hopefully July 20th.
well, thank you for answering all of these questions, which I think Tom referred to very briefly as Gunnar working his magic. Okay, got it. Anybody have any questions at this point? Can we move on to the next? Yeah, please go ahead, Eric.
So you mentioned if State Department of Fish and Wildlife is silent or non-responsive, the Army Corps issues a permit. How does that work? Because don't you need to have some kind of permit from DFW?
Well, this is United States Fish and Wildlife Service.
Oh,
So the
okay.
national, and
Okay.
the only thing that they're required is a notification. It's kind of like SEPA, where they give
Okay.
them 30 days, and if they don't comment in the 30 days, they go ahead and issue the permit.
Okay, thanks.
And you do have an HPA, right, Gunnar?
Yes,
Like you have
correct.
an
And that's,
HPA from WDFW.
yes, correct.
Gotcha. They're very, very similar sounding agencies.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
One's much more responsive than the other.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, I am going to change over to the other computer, which is now available. So either Eric, please take over the meeting, or I will be back with you in 2 minutes, whichever you like.
All right, well, I can take over. So
Okay, carry
let's go on. Let's go on to item 3. I have to apologize. I've got multiple screens here, but I don't have the actual agenda item. So whoever's up next for item 3. Oh, actually, I bet you I'm going to have it in my memory. It's Vicky. Go ahead, Vicky.
Transportation element comprehensive plan and non-motorized plan update.
Yep. Go ahead, Vicky, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. So tonight, I wanted to talk with everyone about, I'm currently in negotiations with Parametrics on a scope and budget to update the City of Bremerton's 2016 transportation element of the comp plan. As part of this, we will be also updating the 2007 non-motorized plan that the city of Bremerton has. So both of those elements are going to be part of this scope and budget. My goal is to be able to bring the full contract scope and budget to a study session on July 26th, and then follow up at council on August 2nd. So let me start with the transportation element of the comp plan is a requirement of the Growth Management Act under RCW 3670.070(6). And we have until December 2024 to complete the transportation element of the comp plan. And so what I want to talk just briefly with you guys about, you guys will be seeing obviously this scope, but a couple of the high level elements that are included of how we work our way through the transportation element update. So we begin by taking existing inventory and existing conditions of the city, and we update our transportation demand model. So then our second high level task is we will review and update policies. So we have transportation goals and policies that are, you can see the current ones in the 2016 comp plan TE, and we're going to update those. There's new goals, requirements by PSRC, Department of Commerce, that have to do with various things, climate change, electric vehicles, etc. Then what we'll do once we update our transportation demand model with our current conditions, then we're going to start collecting information and data to evaluate our future transportation system. And what we look at is we look at a 6-year and a 20-year planning horizon. And we take into account all the land use changes. We work tightly with DCD on this. They know what the population projections are that PSRC has provided. Where is DCD planning to put our future growth? And then those are the areas that we focus in on with our transportation demand model, and also looking at operations as well for those 6 and 20-year planning horizons. And again, I'm keeping this very high level. Then we will look at conceptual improvements based on that new updated future transportation demand model. We look at future improvements to meet the needs of the traffic operations as well as the growth projected. And we provide high-level cost estimates. We look at financing plans for those 6 and 20 years. So we look at how do we get updated funding, and part of updated funding that I would like for us to talk about is a possible transportation impact fee. Along with those funding and transportation impact fees, we look at our concurrency management program, which also needs to be updated, which includes level of service, how do we make developers pay for their fair share, etc. So that's then, and with all of that information, that's how we then develop the actual transportation element. We will have extensive internal and external community outreach. There's 3, so Parametrics will be our main consultant with 2 sub-consultants. One will be a PR firm that will be part of handling and helping us with all of our public outreach. So one of the first tasks that we do for that is we create a public participation plan of how we are going to reach out to the public and get feedback. One of the options that I'm definitely going to include is the fact that DCD already has a comp plan webpage up. I would like to participate with them and have some of our stuff posted on there and work very closely with them on that as well. Well, we'll do social media. We'll have a open house. We'll have them come to council and study session. We'll do a public survey. Again, all the fine details of that will be developed in our public participation plan. And then finally, we will update our non-motorized plan which will take on the new jargon of an active transportation plan. That's what our new one will be called. We're going to make it a standalone document from the transportation element of the comp plan, but they're going to be very closely related. They're going to have the same project lists. We're going to look at level of stress for cyclists. We're going to look at level of stress for pedestrians when evaluating, what we're going to put on our new project list. I see your face. So we look at what we've already done. So we build on the foundation of both of these plans, on the non-motorized plan as well as the transportation element. We take what we have and we take off the projects that we've done. We evaluate the projects that are still on there, and then we figure out what projects need to be added. So that is a very high level of scope that I'm working through with parametrics. And I would love to have any questions you guys may have.
Eric, please go ahead.
Okay, Vicky, you want to talk about impact fees? First of all, what is our competitive environment? And I understand the rationale for impact fees, but we've had this discussion when it comes to utilities, and we charge a hookup fee. So you're talking about a similar fee, I assume, for the cost of building roads. So let's go down that road, if you will, and tell me the rationale and the projected fees.
Eric, you're out in front of me a little bit. So my position of how we would address this in the comp plan is just foundational. And this I think is going to be open to us all for discussion about how far do we want to take it. But I do think that we need to start broaching the subject. There's many advantages of having a transportation impact fee, especially for developers. And it will help us with our funding of figuring out where match money is going to come for grants. Is there something specific, Eric, that you remember from the past that's not favorable about an impact fee?
Well, to the best of my knowledge, we do not have transportation impact fees in the city of Bremerton. We've never had them.
That is correct.
Other cities, I believe, I'm just jarring my memory, like Port Orchard do. And actually, we've taken pride in not having those and having a more competitive environment for developers. I'm open to any kind of discussion, but we need to understand the history of why we haven't offered them in the first place. So.
And I agree there's history there. I agree. And that would be the plan of this, Eric, is for us to bring up to the table, the pros and cons of having one. And maybe we decide that that's not the route we want to go, but I hope to at least have the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I just interrupt very briefly? What is a transportation impact fee? It would be helpful to define that term.
So a transportation impact fee is what we would assess to developers. So when developers come in with a proposed development, we ask them to provide us with a trip generation report, which is put together by a transportation engineer and projects how many additional vehicles, their trips they're going to add to the road system surrounding their development. And we look at how that impacts the existing level of service in the surrounding area of the proposed development, and whether it compromises our level of service, which is E, which is very low. The way Bremerton works currently is it's kind of a cumulative effect where it takes quite a bit of development to trigger that level of service to be compromised. In other words, impact their development to impact certain intersections or arterials in our system. So instead of everybody paying in a fair share, finally there's that one development that comes in and kind of tips it over. And then that's when we say to that developer, oh, well, we need some mitigation for your impact of your development on our existing infrastructure. And because the way the code is written, it really turns into a negotiation with developers. We haven't been, unfortunately, we haven't been very successful in our negotiations as far as collecting any impact fees or mitigation funds for the impacts that they do to the infrastructure. Now, I do know we've done SEPA mitigation where we've collected some monies. And actually, Tom, yes, Tom, you wrote a really good paper. I read that paper recently, summarizing fees that we've collected. I'm going to let you speak a little bit
Okay.
more about it.
Okay, so I just needed to have that term defined. Eric, I didn't mean to cut into any more of your time. Thank you, Vicky. And Gunnar, you had a comment? After Eric is done? Yeah?
No, I'm gonna cede to Tom and Gunnar, but then I'd like to proceed with more of my
Okay.
question.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I was just going to say that Bremerton is about the only entity in Kitsap County that does not charge a fee. Kitsap County actually had the lowest impact fees in the entire state. They were like $525 a unit. They recently raised that. I think they're close to the median in our area, which is about 3,000. But what it also does is it provides a balance and something that the developers know that they've got coming up with them, where there's not any surprises with SEPA mitigation, and they wind up, and it's just not been a real good system for us. And I think this would kind of level the playing field and allow those developers to come in and with some reasonability know what they're going to be paying.
Okay, would add certainty.
Yes, and again, we want to explore this. We want to take a look at it, and we'll put all the cards out on the table and have that discussion when we get to that point with the comprehensive plan.
Thank you very much. Had you completed? Yes. Okay, Tom, please go ahead. Thank you for waiting.
Yeah, actually Gunnar and Vicky said a lot of the things that I wanted to say. We want to just have the conversation and answer the questions. And this is a big conversation. It's got a lot of different components to it. It's a big deal. It's a big conversation. So we're not ready to have that today. But the one thing that I would say is that impact fees pay for capacity improvements, right? So you don't pay an impact fee and then use that money to go overlay a roadway, right? You don't do that. It's not a maintenance revenue stream. It's only for, adding lanes and signals where there aren't signals and things like that, things that improve capacity.
So, okay. I'm sorry, I should not be asking any more questions. Eric, do you want to hear from Ned or go right ahead?
No, that'd be really rude of me if I said I didn't want to hear from Ned. So go ahead.
Yeah, we wouldn't want to be rude. So it's my understanding that Bremerton is the only city in the state that doesn't have an impact fee. And I think that's true, isn't right, Tom? Like, we are the only ones in the state of Washington that don't execute an impact fee. We have had developers request that we use other cities' impact fees so they have that certainty of what their fees are going to be. The development up at the top of Werner Road, we implemented the city of Poulsbo's impact fee, and it was a negotiation, and I think it brought in the order of like $700,000 from that development, and they asked us to do that as opposed to the alternative, which is they do an evaluation, we agree or disagree with the impacts to specific infrastructure, and then we negotiate what those costs are, which turns into oftentimes a back and forth that takes a lot of time. It's really onerous negotiating using SEPA for impacts. The other thing that happens with the way we manage it now is when we collect money for a specific impacted intersection, let's say, or widening. You impacted Werner Road, and we're going to collect $700,000 to, widen Werner Road later. Well, that might be a $5 million project that we may or may not get grant funding for. So that $700,000 sits unused in an account for years and years without any project ever being executed. With an impact fee, you collect money that is that can be used and collected and used citywide, so you can actually execute a project. Everybody, levels the playing field. The developers all pay based on their impact and their fair share of an overall city level of service impact. It's based on actual projects from our modeling. There's a cost associated with it that's based on the projects that they should have a share in. They're not paying an impact fee for something in the city of Poulsbo, which, you know, is an interesting approach, but so there's a lot of reasons to have an impact fee, and not the least of which we need revenue for the capacity projects that we have beyond grant funding. And we are the caboose on this issue. Like every other city in the state and most counties have a transportation impact fee to help them fund their capacity projects. So that's from a staff perspective and managing the issue. That's what it looks like from my perspective.
So from my perspective, this is obviously a preliminary discussion. I'm not against impact fees. I'm not for impact fees. In general, the fewer taxes, the better, but I understand. I know some communities assess the impact fee, not necessarily just for roads, but for anticipated parks as well. And they'll do a fee like that. Again, a discussion further down the road, but I wonder if there would be exemptions for the small time developer that's doing one lot or two lots or whatnot versus because under the current system, you wouldn't be hitting them with an impact fee. They're adding one more car onto the street or two per household or whatnot. And this is not necessarily giving a break to the developer. All costs are passed on to the end to the homeowner, arguably. So if we want to have affordable housing, entities that keep on adding taxes and to cost of building, that gets passed on to the consumer. So there's it's not a slam dunk. It's not, oh, we're the only one that doesn't do it, so we should do it. Just prove the case and I'll be open to it. That's all.
Eric and I agree. You have a threshold, you know, and again, this is all stuff we can talk about, but there should be a threshold of a certain density or something before it kicks in. So, and talk about affordable housing. All of those are criteria and discussion pieces. I agree that we need to have.
Okay, Michael, did you have any questions or comments?
No.
Okay, Eric, you were done? Okay. I would certainly separate out affordable housing from any such development. I think it's unlikely that developments in the remaining open areas of Bremerton are going to include what Kitsap Housing Coalition Task Force, for example, would call affordable housing, like 30% of AMI. So that set aside, I think this would be an interesting discussion to have. And I look forward to having that discussion. Do you have a projected date when that discussion might have its first go round?
Gosh, I wish I did for you, Anna. I'm just trying to get this scope and budget through so we can get started on the work.
Okay, so
But there'll be updates along the way. My plan is to keep you guys as updated as well as the public. So you will see it coming is what I'm going to tell you.
Alrighty then. So you were talking, you referred numerous times to how the transportation element of the comp plan, that you were discussing foundational principles. Can you give us like one example of how that would actually play out on the ground? Let's say I live 3 blocks from Lulu Haddon Park, and yet I cannot walk there because there are no sidewalks or crosswalks. How's this going to work for me?
Well, first, I'm going to tell you, I believe that we already have a project that talks about that issue at Lulu Haddon Park on our non-motorized plan. So Anna, let me be clear. The way it sits right now, we have a project list in our comp plan that includes sidewalk, it includes everything, and we have a project list in our non-motorized. Part of the goal of this effort will be to combine those so that we have the same project list in both documents. But those are the kind of public input we're going to take on the website as well. And then we can verify, do we already have that project called out on our project list? And if we don't, then we talk about how do we get it on there, especially if there's sidewalk gaps or missing ADA ramps, because that sounds like what you're saying to me. But we need to take these projects and their requests and do a little bit of investigative work on what is being asked and verify that we don't already have it listed somewhere. But that is part of this process.
Okay, I don't want to take up too much of everybody's time with this. Are you bringing this to the Public Works Committee just purely informationally, or is there something that you would like council to do?
This is purely informational. I just want to let you guys know I'm working on it. Besides the fact that time is ticking and we have a certain time frame, we have to get this work done. So I'm seizing tonight's opportunity to tell everyone that I'm working on it. Like I said, it'll be coming on the July July 26th study session, and then the August 2nd council meeting. Those are my goals. And again, it'll be part of your pack, the entire scope and the budget with the contract.
Okay, great. That sounds great.
Yeah, so this is the presentation prior to bringing it to full council. That's why it's not just information only. It's so that we, check that box of informing the Public Works Committee before we bring it to full council.
This is the presentation that will be brought to council?
This is the presentation to let you know that we have a contract coming forward to council with parametrics that Vicky will be bringing. She's working on the scope and budget. There will be a contract coming to council. This is the presentation to let you know that that's what's happening. So
excellent. Okay, that's very clear. Thank you. Okay, so it's coming 7/26 with parametrics contract. Cool.
Thank you, Ned.
Okay. Anybody have any further questions before we move on to the next agenda item?
Vicky, did you see my chat I just sent you in Teams?
I'm sorry, I didn't.
Okay.
Wow.
I need you to I think we have a conversation about the tip a little bit later that I need you to stick around for.
Okay, Tom asked if we did it after this, so now I'm confused. Which would we like
Well,
to do?
I just didn't want you to leave because you need to be.
Oh, no,
involved in
I'm not leaving.
Okay.
Tom had
Yeah.
mentioned at the beginning that we would do it after this since I was number 3, but we can do it at the end, however.
Well, whatever. I just want to make sure you were going to be here for us since we didn't talk about it. So.
Absolutely, Ned, absolutely.
Okay, and at that point, perhaps we could talk about is there more about the non-motorized plan update? Or no? Okay.
Not
Then
at this
us-
time.
Okay. Well, I look forward to hearing anything about it. And now, the excitement of the well 7 replacement, brought to you by Mr. Bill Davis. Please go ahead, Bill.
Good afternoon. I'm here to talk about the well 7 replacement project, which is a project that's going to be coming to council in the next couple of months. I've got a brief presentation that I will share. Oh, Hillary, could you allow sharing of the screen?
Everybody's going away when you start to show a presentation on well 7, Bill.
Yeah.
She's getting it.
Okay. Okay, cool.
Okay, try it now, Bill.
Okay. Can everyone see the PowerPoint slide?
Yes.
Okay. So this is about well 7 replacement, and just so you know, that's a picture of a well that we drilled back in 2019, well 2, out of the Anderson Creek well field. So well 7 is located. Well 7 is located down here a little bit past Gorse in the Anderson Creek well field, where we have several different wells. These are the primary wells in the city that take water into our main water zone, the 256 zone. We have a few wells that are located around the golf course and some that are in East Bremerton, but this is our primary well field. And well 7's been in existence since 1945. We have rehabilitated it a few times. We rehabilitated it in 2004, and then in 2019, just 4 years ago. But since that time, it is not producing like it should. It's had issues in the past with sand coming into the well, which reduces its production. So yeah, it's got significantly reduced output. And so we have budgeted, and this has been going on for about a year now. It's been out of commission. So a new well will be drilled in nearly the same location to replace the existing well. There'll be new pumping equipment, pumps, valves, and equipment will be installed. And the city is developing this contract in-house, though we do have a separate contract right now with Robinson Noble to it's an on-call contract, and they provide us technical support. They're a geotechnical engineer. So this is a construction contract that's being prepared. That will be, I anticipate it will come to council in August. It may come in September, just depends on when we can get it done. And the goal is to drill it by the end of this year. So it's a high priority well that needs to get re-drilled. So currently there's $500,000 budgeted in 2023 to complete the construction of this well. That's the end of my presentation. Any questions?
Thank you very much, Bill. Eric, Michael, have you any questions?
No.
Okay. Michael, no? Okay, thank you very much. This is gonna cost 500K? That's it?
That's the latest estimate from our geotechnical engineer.
Holy slumgullions, what a pleasant sum to hear.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is part of the principal well field, and it's like west of or around the mouth of Anderson Creek, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So how old is this well? 1941?
1945.
Okay,
So, yeah, we've rehabilitated it on several occasions over the years. Basically, we plunged the well to increase the flow from the aquifer.
okay. Well, what a pleasure to know that we have water and that we can afford to have a new well to get more water.
Okay, and you had asked the budget. That's our latest cost estimate. So if that goes up, we're still finalizing the contract. That we will inform council about that during the presentation.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so segueing on to the wastewater comp plan update, also Bill Davis.
Okay, I also have a presentation about this one. So the wastewater comprehensive plan update, this is a document that we update about every 10 years. And it's a requirement from the state of Washington, WAC 173-240-050 to update this plan. It's a general sewer plan that every agency, municipality, county prepares to, it's a planning document, to understand the system as well as for capital planning. And the contents include, we evaluate the collection system and the facilities, the pump stations and the treatment plants. There's a basin study and analysis of each basin, risk evaluation of critical infrastructure, determination of flows and loading, system-wide wastewater planning, and then CIP planning. And let me show you, this is our plan from, it's kind of blurry here. Okay, but you can see this is the deliverable. This is from 2005. So it's a large document that gets produced by the consultants. And we're also adding into the plan an evaluation of redundancy and risk for the crosstown pipeline. That's our main pipeline that goes through Bremerton, starting at about 13th and CE1, the pump station pumps up to the crosstown pipeline at 13th and Naval, which flows all the way to our treatment plant. And it's very critical that we understand that, and if we need redundancy for it and where we might be able to put that redundant pipeline. So we included that as part of the scope, and then a siting study for providing sewer out at Puget Sound Industrial Center. And so this study will be done by Kennedy Jenks. We selected them as the consultant. We went through a consultant selection process where we sent out a request for proposal. 3 consultants submitted proposals, which we evaluated and ranked and selected Kennedy Jenks. Negotiations are ongoing. We're nearly complete. And the estimated contract amount is about $640,000. So it's scheduled to come to council on July 12th. Study session, and then full council on July 19th. The study period will start in August and go through July of next year. So there's $600,000 budgeted in 23 and 24. This is a little bit over the amount that's estimated for the contract. That's because we added that siting study. So we'll end up shifting some money around between contracts in order to fund that difference. So that ends my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Eric, Michael, any questions, comments? Okay, so the wastewater, I'd just really like to start off by saying to all of you in Public Works, thank you so much for reminding us, because council is a revolving body. People don't typically sit on it forever and ever. So every time you tell us this is something that comes up every 10 years, this is something that comes up every 6 years, it's really helpful. Every time you supply us with history that one or more of us may be lacking, we really appreciate it. So just thought I'd do that on something. So this, the study will take place from August 23 to July 24. It's going to evaluate and analyze the whole system from like basin-wide, sort of a full watershed, down to each pump station and treatment plant. That all correct so far?
Yes.
It's a pretty thorough study. The estimate is $640K. It'll come to council 7/12, and if all goes well, knock on wood, it'll go to the general on 7/19. Is that all correct?
Yes, and it's really an update. You know, we update it every 10 years, so we're not starting from scratch.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Does anyone have any further questions on this? Okay, it is 5:03. The only other thing that is left, I believe, is looking at the 6-year transportation improvement plan. I asked for this to be put in front of us because the last study session was not just exhausting, but it was exhausting in many different ways. So I don't think I gave my best mind to it. And I'd like to get some answers to a few questions. So who is presenting the 6-year transportation improvement plan?
Well, I was going to talk about it again, Anna, with some help,
Okay.
of course, from my Public Works peeps. But I wanted to be clear about the questions. So I've pulled up the email that you sent. Are those the questions you would like us to discuss specifically, or?
Well, perhaps we could speak those questions out loud.
Well, I was going to even share, I could even share my screen. I have your email pulled up. Would you like to do it
Okay.
that way? Yeah. Okay.
Any old way you want to do it.
Here we go. Hang on here. I'm outside of the VPN. I'm trying to make sure it will let me.
Well, we don't really need to do that.
Well, I have the questions. I'll just, without sharing, then I apologize. So and you sent me this email on June 20th. And you asked me.
I sent you the email, sorry, on June 13th.
Okay. So I'm looking at the one that says regarding 6-year, you know what, I think I'm sorry. This is the one then that you included Tom in today. I apologize, but it's the same email. I apologize. So you're asking about the tier 1 projects on the transportation improvement program, and you asked, what does this mean? And it does mean that they're fully funded. You asked, are the funds already secured by federal or state grants supported by written documents? Funds that are typically secured by federal or state grants
Supported by written documents typically funded from general or any special fund included in city's annual budget and or other. In other words, what's the breakdown of the costs? Like, what's the breakdown of how these are funded? That's all I'm asking.
So, as we said at previously, that's not what we do in this document. This document is not a financial document, but a planning document. Anna, we have that information. I cannot look, I can't look at probably any of those projects and give you that breakdown, but we have that information, and yes, they're grant funded specifically, and then there's some sort of matching fund that we're required to provide that comes from REIT or capital or transportation cap funds. So I guess if that is something you would like, I would have to work with somebody to put all of that together. But again, that is not part of this planning document. Ned.
Thank you for acknowledging Ned, Vicky. I'd
Sorry.
just like to respond really briefly that, as I said on June 13th, this is information that is provided in our quarterly capital projects overview, the breakdown of each capital project into federal, state, and city matches. Yeah, Ned, please go ahead.
So I think your first question is about tier one and what it means to be fully funded. It means that we've secured a grant. It's come to council. Council has approved the grant or the loan or the budget source for that project. It usually means there's a match, and we have to identify a matching source. So if it's a tier one project, council has seen this. It's in the budget, or it was approved. The funding mechanism was approved by council. It's already come through council on some level, or it wouldn't be a fully funded project. So, and the reason we put it in tier one is like, hey, these are the projects that we guarantee we're going to deliver because council has already approved the funding mechanism for those projects. So we're ready to go. Thank you. You've funded us. These are the projects that are at the top of the list, and these are the ones we're working on. That's tier one. Tier two are projects that are partially funded. Some of them are funded with like some of that impact fee money that we're talking about, like Bay Vista by our Oyster Bay shop. They had an impact fee of, I think, a couple $100,000. And that was for improvements on Oyster Bay Avenue. And so that project was shown as a tier two project because we had partial funding from a developer contribution, but we don't have the rest of the funding, which would be the grant, which Gunner had applied for a grant unsuccessfully, unfortunately, to fully fund that as like a $7 million project. So even though we have a little bit of money for it, we don't have the full funding, and it's a tier two project because it is partially funded. The tier three projects are all of the other projects, and they're not really ranked by priority. It is just the complete list of all of the other projects in the comp plan that have no funding that's been allocated to them yet. It's not a prioritization, but in general, the tip is just a reflection of the comp plan and the budget. And it's showing our state agencies that we would go get grants from what our full list of projects are and what the estimated costs are for those. So
Yes.
tier one has been funded, tier two is partially funded, and tier three are just the unfunded projects.
Yes, thank you. Eric, Michael, do you have any comments at this time? Yeah, Michael, please go ahead.
Well, I don't have necessarily any comments, but I mean, I think what I feel like you're asking a big question for a little bit of information, right? Where I think there's some interest in knowing how a couple projects are stacking up, like the new signals on Warren Avenue in the corridor up that way, and then Sixth Street rechannelization. Is that didn't we speak about that?
and I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time following. Did we speak about it previously, or do we want to speak about it? Is that what you're saying, Michael?
No, I was trying to help clarify, so.
Well, again, this document isn't a prioritization document. It's just the complete list. We're showing the state all of the work that we have planned. That's what we're doing. And we've put it in tiers because we thought it was beneficial for council to know which projects have already been fully funded, which ones are kind of on the second level of priority because they're partially funded, and everything else.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping, go ahead.
I'm okay with the document. I'm used to the way it works, so.
I am also used to, oh, I'm sorry, Michael, I didn't mean to interrupt. Had you finished?
Yeah.
Okay. So I am familiar with this. It's just that when the previous segment of the Wheaton Way analytics signals came up in council, I think, I don't know, within the past month, I was saying, if we're going to spend nearly $500,000 on this, why don't we defer and put it to other projects? And that I agreed that we could not possibly even discuss that because Shane Weber said, well, council has already approved it. So if by approving this 6-year tip, we're going to have this same discussion in a year or two, in other words, like funded, I beg your pardon, means you're saying that council has already approved it. But council has also approved a number of things that are considered partially funded. I find it difficult to understand what funded means when it doesn't mean funded. Is that clear?
Well, I'll let Tom, I can
Okay.
answer that, but Tom's got his hand up, so I'm not going to step on that.
Take it away, Director.
Let me just take a stab at it. So what the tip does, so when years ago, our tip had a handful of projects on it. Then our tip grew to this document that we referred to as the Christmas list that didn't have any organization to it. And it was overwhelming. And we put a dollar value on every project. And we had like $500 million literally of projects on the list. And you couldn't tell what projects you could reasonably expect to be delivered and which ones you know were just projects that existed in our comprehensive plan. And so a couple of years ago, we put this new format together, and this is just an administrative document that just reflects items that are, and Ned said this, but it reflects items that are on our comprehensive plan. But it also, we took it a bit further with the format that we put together because we thought it would be helpful to reflect what exists in our budget. And so the tier 1 projects, all of the information regarding the funding, it exists. If there's a specific project that you'd like to understand a little bit better, happy to provide that information, but it doesn't exist in this document. This is a planning document, as was said previously. So the fact that something's in tier 1 or tier 2, it just reflects information that exists in the budget that council's approved separately. I hope that helps.
I'm waiting. I'm trying to work on letting people finish before I leave in. Had you finished?
Yeah.
Okay. So I know that I was sitting on council and paying attention when we approved this June 14th, 2022. And yet at this point, you know, I'm like a year smarter. I don't understand. Like, okay, here's an example, the Naval Avenue Road diet. That, to my understanding, is pretty much basically funded, but the completion date was moved out 2 years.
No.
Because the full federal survey had to be done.
Nope. It's unfunded. And so that project, I'm sorry, you said Naval Avenue.
It's partially funded if we're talking about Naval Avenue.
Yeah, I was thinking, I went.
I know you went to 6th Street. Naval Avenue is
I'm not talking
partially
about
funded.
Sixth Street. I'm a good
I
person.
know, I know.
Yeah,
Naval Avenue is a tier 2 project because it's partially funded. To deliver the whole project, we have to have design funding, funding for permitting, funding for the right-of-way phase, and funding for construction. Right now, we've been funded for design. We're going to ask for some more design funding. We've been funded for right-of-way, but we have not been funded for construction whatsoever. That is a partially funded project. Now, it's a higher priority because obviously council has given us the go-ahead to work towards completing that project. We still have grants to request to deliver that project, but it's a tier 2 project because it is not completely funded to take it to completion. Does that help?
It does help, except then I'm looking at View Ridge, where you've tried your darndest to get funding last year or this year, recently, and failed to do so. So here you are going to, I don't know, what is darndest times 2? You're
Well,
going,
that's a 2-phase project. Phase 1 is fully funded now. Phase 2 is unfunded.
Yeah.
so phase 2 is the 4.088 mil?
Phase 2 is like, I think from Ida to Rydell. So we're funded for design and construction from Sylvan to Ida to do that work and get it to completion. Phase
So-
2, which is Ida to Rydell, does not have funding for design or construction.
So the basically 4.1 mil for 2025. That would be phase 2, or that's the
I'm not looking at the tip, so I can't answer that one.
Okay.
It's phase 1, and if you look on page 2 of the, here, let me just share my screen real quick if I can do that.
I'm looking.
Hillary might have to let
Yeah,
you.
phase
highlighted
2,
it.
phase 2 of almost all of these is not, of almost all the safe routes to school.
See,
Right.
here's.
Phase
this
2 is, yeah,
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
on page 2.
yeah. So
this is
the
a phase-
design of this is gonna cost 4.088 mil
I
in
don't- Tom,
2025.
can you share the line where she's looking at the 4.1 million, please? I'm not looking at, I'm on my
So
laptop.
here's-
I don't
So
have
Anna,
multiple
that's
computers.
fully funded. That's for everything. Tom, do you see it right there? TR00? Yes.
Right there. So that's construction, right? So that's.
Yes.
Design and construction
Design
over
and
2 years, yeah.
For View Ridge Elementary, so that's phase 1. And then
Do you have all that money?
We
Yes.
have a grant that requires match. So we have a grant and we have a plan for matching funds. Yes.
Okay,
And it was presented to council. When we
Yeah.
bring that grant forward, there's a funding plan that shows how the match, without having the document in front of me, but when we bring a grant forward, we also discuss what the matching funds are for that grant. And I think in that case, I think there's stormwater fund and some sanitary fund, and there might be some REIT in there. I'd have to go look to see.
I
what
think
the
you're right, Ned,
matching
on that
funds
one.
are for that grant. So yes, it's fully funded. It came to council. They approved award of the grant. They approved the mayor accepting the grant, and there was a plan for what the matching funds were for that grant.
so the grant that you failed to get was for phase 2 on Elmira?
That's
Yes.
correct.
Okay.
We
so
were
this is-
close. We were on the bubble, but we did not get that grant.
We're gonna try again.
Yes.
Yes, I have all faith in you. So everything here is fully funded in the sense that council has already approved every single match for 2024 up and down the line in tier 1.
If it's tier 1, it's come to council. We have a grant or a loan, or it's funded by general fund, whatever the funding mechanism is that's been approved in a budget has come forward in tier 1. And Tom, tell me if I'm lying, but I think that's how it gets to tier 1.
Yeah, that's true. With the 2024 budget, I mean, a lot of these projects, we have utility
Right.
funds that are part of the project also. And sometimes the utility funds are matching grant funds. It gets really complicated. You get right down into the weeds.
It does.
So, but yes, if it's a tier 1 project, it's fully funded, and with the approval of the 2024 budget, all the other funding comes together to deliver the project.
Right.
Council will approve or disapprove some of these for the 2024 budget. Is that correct?
Well, I don't know.
I,
I
council,
mean, I guess we'll
council,
wait to see what council decides.
yeah, I mean, we'll bring the
Okay.
budget to council, right? We've put the funding packages together to deliver all the tier 1 projects. And we're working hard to deliver the remaining funds on the tier 2 projects.
On transportation projects, so typically that means we've got a grant, like the funding on a big $4 million project like View Ridge.
Mhm.
That grant has been approved to apply for and has, either if we haven't accepted it yet, it might be because we've been awarded the funding, but they haven't sent the contract yet, right? But that process starts with approval from council and finance committee to go after the money. And then it finishes with bringing it to council to approve the mayor's execution of the grant. So that's how it gets to tier 1. So if you think there's going to be a discussion to not accept grant money or cancel a project, I guess that's something we'll find out when we bring the budget forward. I'm not sure what that looks like.
No, Ned, here I'm just being actually like superstitious when I say council will approve or disapprove.
Oh,
because-
okay.
Yeah, this is not like
Okay.
a secret way to sneak up on you and go, whoa. It's just, I don't know, I'm one member of council. And at this point, I find this really fascinating, but that does not mean that everybody else in this meeting is finding it really fascinating and educational. So let's take a quick poll before I bore everybody out of their tree. Does anybody want to continue this discussion besides me?
Well, Anna, you asked, so
I
again,
did.
I have the privilege of having been through 12 years of tips, so I'm really familiar with the process. So
Okay.
whatever, it's all good. If you need the time, go ahead. That's fine.
Okay. Michael, are you finding this educational?
I'm also good, and maybe I'll be a little less generous than Eric, but if you need a little more time.
Can we do this in the interest of like everybody going home and possibly, I don't know, getting a chance to eat dinner before it gets dark? Can I sit down with a couple of you guys in the coming week or two and figure this out a little better? Would that work out well? Or do you want to keep thrashing at it here?
Well, I'm just wondering what other question you might have. Like, so to me, this is really a planning document, and it's not a detailed budgeting document. It doesn't overcommit us to anything. It's really just notifying the state of our general overall plan and what we have on a very extensive list of projects that would be eligible for funding. But if there's a specific question that we can answer right now, I'd just as soon just answer
Okay, fair enough.
a specific question. Hopefully we can answer it.
Hey, and so Ned, can I just chime in for a minute? And
Sure.
I mean, to be really clear, in order to pursue any grant funding, we have to have the project on this list. And does that make sense to what I'm saying on it? If we want to go after PSRC funds or, TIB funds, any funds at all that we would like to pursue, the first thing all those agencies ask us, is the project you're requesting to submit an application for on your tip? So that's, to me, that this is why this document is very important for pursuing grant funding.
Right.
Had you finished?
Yes, I'm done. Thank you.
I really am working hard on this. Gunnar, please go ahead.
I just wanted to comment that I think this is really a big improvement from the way we used to do the tip years ago. We used to just have a list of projects, and the only thing on that list was stuff that we thought we might get grants for. And we are, as far as I'm concerned with the city, we're doing a lot better job for planning for these projects and looking for the money and matching the grants and having a list that's actually fairly comprehensive and something we can work from. So it's quite a bit different than what we were doing 25 years ago. And it's very much an improvement. I just want to let you guys know that too.
think it makes all of us very happy when praise is given and it's due. Thank you. So I guess I'm looking at this and it breaks down for me into 3 separate types of projects. Projects that move people rapidly through Bremerton. Projects that are good for not sure what the sort of a main street downtown thing, like the wayfinding and Quincy Square. You know, it's avowedly designed for tourists. And then the third thing is for people who live here, like View Ridge, sidewalks, maintenance, stuff like that. And it seems to me that it's sort of weighted away from the people who live here and away from the kind of comment that we've heard. I'm just going to mention 6th Street really quickly. On 6th Street, and then also on the Streeteries meeting that we had pretty recently. So I was wondering what would be the mechanism where the proposed transportation improvements would be more in line with the people of Bremerton seem to be asking for. There, how's that? Is that succinct enough?
So this is capital projects only, right? It's not, there's no maintenance projects on here. They're capital only.
We-
And
We have some
they-
maintenance
Oh, there's,
projects on
well,
here.
major,
Tom.
I'm sorry, major maintenance. There's some
Yeah.
major, and you're right. And it's consistent with the comprehensive plan. That's the goal. So we're going under a comp plan process. And in that process, we hope to do a first-class job of prioritizing improvements and taking into account the priorities of the citizens of Bremerton. We think it does that now. If we're missing the mark and understand, if we end up with some different projects as a result of the comp plan process, then the tip, next year will reflect the comp plan at that time, right? So.
Thank you, Tom. Eric, please go ahead.
Okay, let me throw this out without throwing the mayor under the bus. But the department heads meet with the mayor on a weekly basis. I'm sure more than often than that. But my understanding is they meet with all the department heads, meet with the mayor at least on a weekly basis. And they give Tom and other directors give an update on their department. The mayor runs the city on a day-to-day basis and also is supposed to take in concerns of the citizens and look at the overall future of Bremerton. So I would say it would start with the mayor telling his department heads, this is the direction I want to see the city going. Michael, you can, that's, so council can also say that as well, but you have to understand that the mayor's in the driver's seat because he's there on a day-to-day basis. And whereas we're meeting with Public Works once a month, the mayor has the opportunity to meet with Tom and his director counterparts whenever he wants. And I sense your frustration, but a lot of this has to be, yes, it's policy as far as where you spend the money, but a lot of this has to do with the direction the mayor gives his departments. Ned,
Okay.
are you gonna contradict what I'm saying?
No, not at all.
All right, that's all I got.
No, I did have a comment though. I guess the thing that we're struggling with is I think what you're frustrated by on it is prioritization. And that's not what this document is. And it's not a commitment to, it's just speaking to where we are with the projects, with a full list of projects. Is it funded, partially funded, not funded? Here's the whole list. Here you go, state. These are the projects that we want eligible for a grant. That's all this document is doing. It's in the comp plan process and in the budgeting process and with public comment or direction from the mayor or requests from the council or public input that we get that prioritization. And as staff, what we do is we try to, we have a technical expertise with what we think is the next best project for Bremerton from a technical perspective, not from necessarily a social perspective, but from a technical perspective, right? And then we evaluate the grant applications that are, or the asks, you know, that they put out a proposal to, like, here's a grant that's available and here's the constraints of the grant. Well, every project that we have in the city doesn't fit every grant. Sometimes very few projects that we have on that list are eligible for a grant. Sometimes a bunch of projects are eligible for one grant. So then we try to evaluate what the right application is to go after for a grant, and we bring that forward. And that's how you get a resolution. Like for View Ridge, we had to bring a resolution forward to council to say, hey, we think this is the right project to go after a grant for. And then council approved that resolution. Or maybe that was the adaptive signals. I forget which one we were talking about. Honestly, I might be confused there. But so we do our best to try to bring good projects forward and secure funding for good projects. If they're the wrong projects, well, then we need some guidance from someone else to tell us, hey, that's not the projects that we want you to go after. So maybe that's an area for council to provide input. But that's really the comp plan process, or when we're going after the grant, not this tip of process. Like this is a very slow moving boat, the tip, and it has a very simple reason for existing, and it doesn't really drive our prioritization whatsoever. So I mean, that's my perspective anyway.
Okay, thank you, Ned. Yeah, Vicky, please go ahead. I'm gonna almost stop talking after this so everyone can cheer up.
Oh, well, thank you, Anna. Well, and I want to say, so this is my opinion. I understand what's said about the mayor, but to me, that's what the comp plan does. That is why we update it every 6 years. Maybe it should be more often. It's to find out what is changed in the vision for Bremerton. What do people think we should be doing? What's the direction we should be doing? Again, we have the foundation of the 2016 plan, but that was, X amount of years ago. We've moved on. Things have changed. Bremerton maybe has changed. And that for me is what's exciting about the comp plan is, and like when we did the parade, to me, it was like, what is your idea of the future of Bremerton? Be part of the comp plan update. This is what we do during that comp plan update. That's what those goals and policies do. This is the time that we update or change them or change our vision, which can then, trickles through to the project. So this is the comp plan. It's a really exciting time for us to be figuring out collectively with everybody what is everybody's idea for the vision of the future of Bremerton. And so I really think that this is the time for us to be talking about what you're frustrated with and what you would like to see. I mean, we're getting ready to embark on the journey. So I'm hoping that it will help you feel more part of the process.
You know how hard it is to find someone who's excited about doing a comp plan? It's not easy to find that person. Yeah. Thank you, Vicky.
Yeah, Gunnar, please go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to add on to that too, that the traffic changes and our road use changes and our population, and that's why it's so tied to the overall comprehensive plan is, if I can give an example, when the county did Silverdale comprehensive plan years ago, their big thing was making sure everybody could get to Silverdale. And that's where the improvements were really directed. When they redid the comp plan for Silverdale, it was, well, we can get the people here now. Now we got to get them around Silverdale, which is why they're now doing the Ridgetop project, going to spend $40 million to widen that to a 5-lane section. We may see the same things with this comp plan, is we're going to be looking at those traffic patterns and population, and again, tied in with the comprehensive plan, so we can figure out what our general direction and where we need to go and where we think the traffic's going. So it really is hand in hand with the overall comprehensive plan. And it is, I echo with Vicky, it's an exciting time, and we may see some real changes coming out of this plan.
Oh. Does anyone else have any further comments? Well, I myself am looking forward to that horizon in which the 2007 non-motorized transportation plan is implemented. So, yeah. Okay, if we were all fresh, I would tire your patience some more, but you guys have been really good. It's construction season, it's wet, your feet are wet. Unless anyone has anything further for good of the order, I'm gonna propose that we adjourn this meeting.
Just one quick thing
Oh,
is
please go ahead, Michael.
I'm not available for next month's meeting, so I just want to give as much notice as possible.
Can you
So,
find a proxy?
is that a thing? I've never heard of that. I mean, I know what a proxy is.
I know you do.
Well,
If-
we can take that offline. I just want to give that the most
Okay.
heads up. It's my birthday and I'm seeing Madonna, so that takes priority. So,
Oh my gosh, I saw her in, okay.
it cost me a couple months of council salary to pay for the tickets. So,
Only a couple.
yeah.
Eric, did you have anything further to add?
Just that I'll be here, so no worries about a quorum.
Okay, that's great. I'm just gonna read like from top to bottom on my screen. Gunnar, Vicky, Tom, Ned, Hillary, Bill, Katie. Thank you so much for this. I really appreciate. I hope that sometime in the future we can actually have these meetings in person. But until then, we will continue to hold the Public Works Committee meeting remotely. Thank you for your virtual attendance. Thank you for your patience in educating. Appreciate it. The meeting is adjourned.
Okay, good night.
Good night.